and welcome to the Iron Mountain Hour. It is Sunday, October the 23rd, 2022. My name is Cliff. I'm trying to make Cassandra's curse be quiet there. Hey, if y'all are just tuning in to us, we appreciate you joining us. Give it a like and subscribe on the video, and we're going to get into some UFO stuff tonight. That was Cassandra's Curse, band on YouTube that has like 28 subscribers, but they're up to 30 now, I guess, because Tim and I subscribe. But they're a pretty killer prog rock band. They kind of remind me of Voivod from the 1980s. That was some neat proggy stuff from Texas.
Thrashy.
Yeah.
A lot less thrashy.
Well, yeah.
But I could see in sort of the...
Well, what would your comparison be? Encyclopedia. Gothica.
I'll put the link to that song in the description of the video if anybody wants to check that out. Jump in the chat, let us know what you think about it. What does it sound like to you? Who would you compare it to, Golf?
I was saying earlier, Wheel. They do have kind of comparisons to Wheel or Richelieu, or there's someone else I'm trying to think of, and I can't think of it. I haven't listened to him in probably 3 or 4 years, so the name's not coming up, but the vibe matches.
Well, I thought it was pretty cool, and it was a pretty good way to kick off for what we're going to get into tonight. We've got a whole lot of stuff to get into, and I just want to go ahead and let anybody know that maybe it's not subscribed. This is not intended to be like a big informational video on UFOs or anything. There's all kinds of other people doing all kinds of other stuff like that. We do have a lot of different, hopefully we got a different take on it compared to a lot of other people. We try to do something a little bit different here, and sometimes whatever's in the news we try to jump on and have our own take on it, because sometimes we think about it in different ways. But before we get into too much of that, I want to go ahead and get into a few local stories and a few just interesting stuff and funny stuff from around the web in our green room. And I'm going to start off in Bristol from WCYB here. We got the first meat pallet project in region to provide fresh beef to food country stores. This is from WCYB, and apparently the Appalachian Sustainable Development has partnered with Food Country to provide fresh local beef to consumers across the state of Virginia. Now, maybe you guys have a different opinion on this, but it kind of seems to be common sense to me that it just makes the most sense to have the beef and not ship it very far, have it butchered and sold locally, as opposed to us here in Tennessee buying beef from Kansas City and we sell our beef to New York. I mean, I know it's based on, price economy and stuff like this, but...
What's up, Dalton?
Hey, Dalton, I put a community post up for Dalton because we're able to do that now, where we can do posts and polls and things like that on YouTube. Yep, we're fancy now. And it was yesterday was the first, the 40th anniversary of First Blood that Dalton was telling us about. So I posted that just for Dalton. Go watch First Blood if you hadn't seen that. It's a pretty cool movie, and it's a lot different from the other Rambo. You kind of associate Rambo. The first Rambo I saw was Rambo 2, and then Rambo 3, and it was like just a straight kind of dumb action movie, with
first one I saw was 3.
Rambo just shooting M60s at helicopters and RPGs and blowing up the VC and making out with Radon Chong.
It really didn't get, I guess, like, to the point where, because there was a video game term we would use when we'd play games, like if you were being conservative. Like nowadays it's like camping and those sorts of terms, but when we were like doing a run and gun, we called Ramboing it, and that's pretty much what everybody at school would call, he would Rambo it. And it's because we only seen 3, but that really didn't start until probably like halfway through the second one when he loses his shit.
Yeah, First Blood was a lot more nuanced take on a man returning home from war and not really having a place to go. And my uncle told me about it whenever he got home from Vietnam. It was like he had to hide that he was a veteran on his applications to work for places like TVA and things like this. It was so hard for him to get a job because he was a veteran, and that's kind of hard to imagine for us now. But when you remember the news in the 1970s and late 60s, it was, they were calling the soldiers baby killers and all this stuff. And while Vietnam was a war that we shouldn't have been fighting in, your average person who was upset about it took it out on the soldiers rather than the people who actually were sending them off to war. So pretty bad situation there, and it left a lot of people in the situation like Rambo was in that video or in that movie, where he was a man without a country, basically just trying to pass through town, and got harassed to the point where he had to pretty much take down the whole sheriff's department and state police in the town. Good movie, and a lot more dramatic than the other Rambo films. We had this from the Musket Bowl it was in Jonesboro at David Crockett High School. They were playing Daniel Boone High School in football, and they had a skydiver died after an accident parachuting into the place. They haven't released his name.
He's from Elizabeth, and I know that.
Okay. And he was from a skydiving company in Greenville. He's a private company, and they were diving in as part of the intro show, and dude died. And, everybody was understandably shocked, and they decided to go ahead and continue with the game because they felt like that it wouldn't, it would be more disruptive, I guess. But, I mean, I don't know what the right thing to do is there, but you're torn between do you show respect for this guy who just died, or you try to make it as less traumatizing on the student body as possible.
I don't know if that would have been possible at that point because he landed in front of one of the teams.
Yeah, and did his chute not open, or did he? I didn't.
All I heard was he came in too quick.
Yeah.
So
even with the chute open, you can still come in really fast. We were talking about in the Man vs. Cave video that your chances of dying in a cave were higher than dying in a skydiving accident. You're actually like 1 in 30,000 chance of dying in a cave, where you're like 1 in 100,000 of dying in skydiving. I think we mentioned that on the video. If not, we might have just been in our private conversation. But it's pretty crazy this guy died in a skydiving accident right after that.
I found, because, like I said,
we put your chances at 0 and do neither.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I don't have a good enough survival instinct to not do really dumb stuff to put myself in a position where I would used to do really dumb daredevil crap. And I've learned to stop doing some of that stuff because I don't trust my instinct of when I shouldn't go so far, like that. It's I was talking about with Ashley this week. It's called the void or something like. It's a psychological term where you want to jump off for a split second. You kind of want to jump off the bridge.
It's called the void.
Called the void.
I forget what
there's a French term for it that I can't pronounce. Yeah. But there's theories about what that is.
Basically, like your brain checking yourself to see if that stuff still works. It's like, why did I think about doing that? You're like,
L'appel du vide.
I have an alternate theory, which would be, I think it's almost like a test mechanism for selective cell death of the hive mind, but I don't have any evidence of that. That might just be I did not learn any of that at ETSU. That's just the idea of I can't imagine why you would want to. Like, animals don't typically commit suicide unless they have a reason, but humans kind of do it all the time based on emotions.
True.
So I think maybe we, I don't know, as above, so below.
Could be where we're so self-aware to things, and a lot of animals are kind of blissful.
How did we get on that? Jumping off the thing. What was that last story we were talking
We're talking about the skydiving accident there at the high school football game. But I want to move on from that. Look at this one. We got somebody being very creative.
Well, that's what confused me, because we were sitting there talking about the jumping off a bridge thing, and all I see is bees unleashed, and I was like, what were we talking about?
Yeah, so evidently we have, this is in, I think in Hampton County, Massachusetts. Rory Susan Woods is facing charges of assault and battery against police officers because they showed up to her house to evict her, and she smashed a beehive and kicked it over while she was wearing a bee suit, and the bees attacked all the sheriff's deputies. And,
is this woman not a character from Metal Gear Solid?
Yeah, I think so.
Or Vigilante 8.
I was thinking, from Metal Gear Solid 2, was what was he, which boss was that? He was the one that actually had the bees. It's the first one you fought.
The weird boss, yeah. I can't think of his name exactly.
Or something like that.
I was thinking of Vigilante 8 because one of the cars is a station wagon that has bee stuff on top of it. And one of the things is they throw a beehive at you and your car goes punk, 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 and starts flying up in the air.
That was a good game.
That's a weird boss from Metal Gear Solid. A guy that used bees.
Well, it makes. I was like, I saw that. I'm like, that makes sense.
That looks like the face of a lady who'd kick over bees at you, don't it?
She looks proud,
Yeah,
she
does. She's like, yeah, they didn't see that coming, did they? Yeah. But she was arrested. She was still wearing the beekeeper suit when she was arrested. She actually
caught like assault with a bee.
Well, see, she was. I guess there's the photo of her when she dumps them over and they start attacking the guy. She goes, puts a bee suit on, and picks up the crate of There she is. Sorry, I didn't show that to y'all. There she is struggling with the deputy. And then she goes and puts a bee suit on and picks up a crate and takes it to the house and shakes it out and, gets the bees more agitated and gets them all stung up. So, yeah, give her an A for creativity there.
That would have to be an interesting way to assault somebody.
Yeah, it is. It's the first time I've heard of that. Well, let's see here. Last week we were talking about the
Dolphins shoot your dog, but they can't shoot your bee.
That's right. Unless they have one of the Boring Company flamethrowers, then I guess they could do that.
Oh yeah.
We were talking last week. Tim and I.
Resident Evil, you can use the shotgun.
Can you on bees? That's right. Yeah. I guess if you had a good load of bird shot or rock salt or something, that might be good for bees. Well, last week we were talking about the sunflowers painting and how these activists had gone into the museum, and I think it was London, and threw tomato soup all over sunflowers. And Tim and I had a discussion about why people are so upset about things like that, and why people would get upset about smashing statues. And that was a good conversation. Not many of you saw it. I think because we talked about, it was on Wednesday night, but it's probably because we talked about the COVID vax a lot. Usually those Wednesday night news and current events roundup shows get about 100 views. This one got within a few days they get 100 views. This one had like 30, and then it didn't get any more after that. So it may have just been because we were talking about the shots a whole lot. It got put down in the algorithm, but
could be in the thumb down flipping the audience off.
That could be. Well, let's look here. These people right here were they bring in pots of mashed potatoes and throw them all over a Monet painting, which Monet's like my favorite impressionist.
I was like, I'm pissed. That makes me angry because I'm like, I love Monet.
How are they getting in with this shit?
That's the whole question, man.
That's why I call foul play.
Yeah, and that's why I brought this one back up, is because look, they're carrying a backpack, and they are, they carry in a backpack, and they carry in a pot of mashed potatoes, a can of tomato soup. We won't be able to feed our families in 2050, so everybody has to stop farming and using all the things that we use. Think about how much farming is oil and diesel based, how much oil and diesel goes into farming, and they're worried about not being able to feed their families in 2050. So they're saying we need to stop all that right now.
By wasting food and destroying something that a man created for art to bring, happiness to the world, and they're being dicks about it.
Well, luckily there was glass over it, and they didn't actually harm the painting, but hopefully they didn't, because it could seep around it and it could still damage the painting. And
I want to defend
that one. I could feel less because
we can do that another time. We got a long show, but
we did on them, so I have to defend them.
Okay, make it quick.
I'm going to draw it as long as possible now. If you really believe that, for example, like Penn Jillette said that he respected Christians that gave people a hard time about going to hell. And there was an atheist guy that was arguing with him. He said, I don't understand that. And he said, well, if you truly believe that your neighbors are going to die and burn in hell for all eternity, wouldn't you want to stop that? And he said, so even though those people get on your nerves, at least I respect them enough to at least I believe that they really believe what they believe. These are assholes, but I do believe that they're concerned.
Well, I do believe that too, but they're not making their point in a way that is going to be effective, for one. So
20.
Yeah, and two, they're also possibly damaging priceless works of art, but they're also gluing themselves there. I say let them stay there. Apparently, they did that.
I thought that was the Volkswagen dealership.
No, that's what I was going to say. In the Volkswagen dealership, it was like a high end. I think it was Porsches and Audis and stuff. And Volkswagens, but they went in, and some activists did this and glued themselves there, and they said, okay, you can stay there. And then the activists were like, they wouldn't even give us the courtesy of bringing us a bowl to defecate and urinate in.
That's right. Hashtag it said not a pot to piss in.
Yeah. So that's how you handle those people. You let them have what they want, leave them there, and
Yeah, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that maybe I don't really necessarily hate them, because I do believe that they are,
I don't hate them. The reason I brought that up is to bring it to say that, yes, it probably is some sort of inside job, because you had that theory on the one with the tomatoes.
Yeah, about how they get all the shit.
They brought a huge pot of mashed potatoes in a backpack. So, yeah, I think you're onto something there.
You can't just get into museums like that.
Yeah. And Sean's in the chat, says he just got here making apple pie. All right.
Is that a euphemism?
What do you mean by that, Sean?
Hey, baby.
Hey, welcome.
Arm out an hour and make whoopee.
Hey, do you like, Sean, do you use Granny Smith apples, or what do you use? That's the only ones I really like to make pies out of. I like to make a good apple pie and apple crisp myself, but I'm a Granny Smith man when it comes to my apple pies and apple tarts and all that stuff. 'Cause I like to bake, and especially around the fall we get those fresh harvest apples. What do you like to use for that, Sean?
Braeburn works well too.
A Braeburn. It's a Braeburn. Hey, I got.
Have anyone ever tried like the weird new apples that always come out?
They're like pink grapefruit apples and stuff like that, or
the ones they call like cosmics or something.
Yeah. Those are good.
I guess the issue would be with the apple pie is you need a really hard apple and you need it to be a little bit tart, or all the flavor goes out and it gets overwhelmed by sugar. And that's typically, old ladies explain it to me in produce all the time, about twice a day during apple making season. But you had to get the Granny Smith because it had enough tartness and enough sturdiness to withstand the baking process.
That's
the
right.
Braeburn was another one, and sometimes they would do something with Macintoshes, although I have no idea why, because they had the consistency of styrofoam.
Sean says only if you want it to be a euphemism. Oh, Sean, we do want it to be a euphemism.
It just
eating
comes out
that.
apart. Yeah,
I think that's
okay. I guess it's a texture thing, because I really don't like that texture.
true. I feel that. I totally.
I guess I've never even given the flavor a chance, because just biting into it, I was like, it's like the whole apple's bruised.
Sean says it's kind of tart and he doesn't use sugar. He uses cinnamon and pectin. I gotta use my brown sugar, man. I love it. Too good.
And did you know how we always buy brown sugar, then you use like a little bit of it and it just turns into a rock on you?
Yeah.
You know, like a good way to prevent that?
How's that?
Buy white sugar and molasses. Because molasses is the brownness out of the sugar. They extract it to make white sugar. So if you just have both of them together, if you want it together, do it in like a food processor and it blends it back together. But if you're baking, just use them both in it and it's the same thing.
Okay.
Unless you need it for sprinkling or topping. If you're baking with it, molasses and white sugar, it's the same thing as brown sugar.
Gotcha.
Because that's
Baking
what it
tips
is.
from golf.
That's right. Now, for other diners, drive-ins, and dives, we got this. This is roadsideamerica.com. This is over in Blunttville, Tennessee. For anybody that's local, they got the map on here.
Well, I look sassy.
Well, this guy's got this out in his yard in Blunttville, so people drive off of I-81 and stop by and check it out. So it's on roadsideamerica.com. This is in our local area. We also have a Backyard Terrors dinosaur park. It's pretty cool. This guy, just of his own volition, made and took donations, didn't charge anything for anybody to come in. He made these life-size, realistic-looking dinosaurs and has them all over his property. He has huge, dinosaurs and displays. It's really, really cool. Backyard Terrors here in Elizabethton, or in Blunttville, or is it Bluff City?
Bluff City.
Bluff City, yeah. It's real nearby here. It's really cool, but this in Blunttville is similar too. Now, let's move on a little bit. We got a little bit of news from Washington. We got this from the Washington Examiner. Kamala Harris hires her third chief VP speechwriter since taking office. And apparently she's gone through 2 of them already. And, I mean, when you got gems like this, though, who needs a speechwriter?
The administration saying, you know what, the strategies are working. Administration officials, that's from Shuttle urging the administration to change course.
Got some?
Yeah.
Is it Tom?
Time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day. Every day it is time for us to agree that there are things and tools that are available to us.
This is commentary.
This thing down.
Does she need a speechwriter? I think she's got it, don't you?
She has it down packed like a high schooler trying to BS through an essay paper.
Yeah, put enough words in there to fill up
It's like, I had to get 800 words in this essay. How can I do this and not know anything what I'm talking
Oh, Sean couldn't hear it. Sorry about that.
Because maybe just your microphone was.
Yeah, it was. Dang it. Here we go. Let's look at it
Have you ever
again.
paid attention that, like, she talks like a watered down, like her speech pattern and the way she would bring stuff up, if you change the voice to Trump's, they almost talk similar. Like she'll make a point and then just say it backwards, kind of like Trump would say it. Like we'd say, "This room's incredible. I've never seen such an incredible room." Like,
Yeah.
that's basically what she does.
Yeah,
we have a
kinda.
problem here, and what that means is we have a problem.
All right. Let me look again.
That's entertaining.
I didn't turn on the audio for that, so let me get this for Sean here. There we go. Sorry about that, Sean.
Does the administration say, you know what,
this strategy isn't working. We're going to change course, to change strategy. Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
That's got to be one of the best quotes ever.
For us to agree that there are things and tools that are available to us to slow this thing down.
You could say that about anything. The time is right now for us to do what we've been doing every day, continuing podcasting, and there are tools and ideas that we can do for that. And so therefore, I believe that we should continue because there's no time like the present. But
Sean, I think she'd make more sense if she was stoned.
yeah.
At least what she's saying would be more interesting.
Well, she could go back like when she used to smoke weed when she was in college, listening to Snoop Dogg, which didn't come out until after she had graduated college. But she said that she smoked weed in college, and then she put away I don't know how many millions of people for
She does listen to music.
for weed as the Attorney General of California, and then kept them in prison after their sentences so they could fight fires, basically be slave labor for the state. Yeah, so
Ultra MAGA. That sounds like a next step above Super Saiyan or something. He's gone MAGA. Whoosh, a red hat pops on.
and we're gonna try to get into some aliens tonight, but
Ultra MAGA, your skin starts turning orange. Big American flag unrolls in the face.
Your aura is blue.
it's like a Super Saiyan, but orange. Yeah, I got you. And you get the Trump hair instead of Super Saiyan hair. Your hair just goes straight to a comb over. And we got, look here, this is Kamala Harris. This is when I should have taken a bet when I saw this video on her being the vice presidential nomination, because she had the odds were against her in the betting pools. If you went on the different betting sites and political gambling sites, it was like 10 to 1 odds for her being VP, against her being VP. And then this video came out. When I saw this, I should have bet, because this is right after she had some plastic surgery.
The black is cold eyes.
Look how strange she looks.
Just pause that and start doing the Jaws speech.
Dun, dun,
Like those eyes.
dun, dun.
Bite in and then turn right or roll back and turn. My eyes probably look like demons in pictures, and I realize that it's Carmen.
Well, she looked very different before she had that video clip out, and I was like, okay, well, this lady had plastic surgery. She's obviously getting ready for something. And then we've got our alien in chief.
I fucking can't unsee that now.
President Joe Biden.
It kind of disturbs me too, because I love that movie, but it scared me as a child.
Yeah, from 1994's film Fire in the Sky, based on the true story of, what was the guy's name? I can't remember now.
I can't remember.
I don't know. He also kind of looks like Groot without the
Yeah, it kind of does.
part, you know?
So there's the Fire in the Sky alien.
Like
Just for
tree right here.
reference, here's Joe Biden. Okay, that's Joe Biden. I know this is 17 years later, but here he is in 2005 at the World Economic Forum meeting in Davos. He looks like a totally different person. I mean, I guess it was just plastic surgery, but I mean, I'm not going to be one of these people that say they replaced him with his clone or something, but that's a pretty drastic difference.
They definitely pulled his cheeks up.
Yeah.
He doesn't have jowls like that anymore.
Yeah, they pulled him tight no matter what.
They gave him that
Nothing else.
pedophile special.
Oh man, there's a new video. I really hadn't planned on watching it of him sniffing a
He
kid.
still has the jowls. I don't know, there's something else going on that I'm just not seeing that looks different. Did he have hair plugs?
I don't know. This is real recent.
Oh, that.
Oh,
you
yeah.
ever have a thought pop in about a conspiracy? I heard one of the reasons he was having dementia is because he was taking massive amounts of Propecia to get his hair to come in when he was running for vice president with Biden, and he's been taking it ever since. And I'm sure if Ashley's hearing that right now, she's in pharmacy, so she can correct my nonsense. But I'm pretty sure Propecia has some kind of hair loss side effects.
There's a.
Shit too.
So where is this? Is this one? Biden was like sniffing a little. I wasn't really going to show this tonight, but he was like sniffed this little boy. It was the weirdest video. Like, you know, we've all seen videos of him appearing to sniff a child, but this one was like undeniable. Let me find it real quick, because I wasn't really planning on doing this, but
Cue the hocus pocus movie.
Sean says it was
children.
Travis Walton.
yes, thank you.
It says old Joe is walking chemistry project. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was rumors that during the Trump debates, the reason he did so good in the second was because they pumped him full of shrooms.
I didn't feel like he did that good, but he did definitely do better than the first one. But let's see, sniffs.
If I'm being honest, I didn't watch either debates. I just saw the highlights.
I watched them both. It was pretty crazy. They both just yelled at each other and argued and didn't really talk in the first one. It was kind of insane. It was pretty embarrassing, really, if you were, somebody who. Oh man, it was. Let's see, where's it at? No, there was a recent one, man. I can't find it now, but he like rubs his nose on the kid's back and just like
What?
Yeah, like
Maybe he's the blows now.
I mean, it was. Here it is.
What?
This is from the 21st. This is from October 21st. Watch this shit.
Are they related?
Watch him. Look at it.
Is it possible he's just messing with the kid?
I don't know. That's a sniff.
Is it, you think?
That
Yes.
kid is not like
That's not just him nuzzling the kid. He's sniffing
maybe.
that kid.
that
Yeah,
kid.
maybe.
Terrified.
I'm not going to sit here and defend world leaders. I don't personally like them, but at the same time, that moniker of being called a pedo is so heavy.
I'm not saying he's a pedo.
He's
I'm
getting some
saying
heavy evidence weighed against him.
I'm saying he's smelling that kid.
think so.
Yeah, that's weird.
I just don't know the context. Like, what if that's his?
Yeah, I don't know either.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what if that's his grandson?
Yeah, I guess if it's
and the kid's afraid and he's just trying to nuzzle him. I
yeah,
don't know.
if it's his grandkid, I guess it'd be a different context. But he has a history of doing that to a lot of
yeah,
children who aren't
seen
his
the ones where,
grandchildren.
like, he gets way too personal with other people's kids and stuff. And I know this sounds gross, but I'm wondering how much of that's a giant generational gap, considering.
Well, I know a lot of old people, and
What are they, elites? You know,
I don't
that
know.
sounds weird, but have you ever met like people that went to super private schools and how they don't know how to talk to you?
yeah, I still don't.
I know that's a judgy statement. I just imagine people that are in the top 1% whom of people.
Of all the people you won't defend, Tim.
I've never, know what I'm saying is I've never met the 1%. I've never met any of them. So I'm just imagining, wouldn't they act weird? You know what I'm saying?
Well, we know they don't know how to act weird. All right, we got missing some here. Cackling Kamala and her world famous word salad, says Alvin Carpus. Nice for you to join us, Alvin. Sean says, is she stoned? And Alvin said, I'll subscribe to that. Does she have eyes? And let's see. You want him sniffing your kid? And Sean says, no, he goes way too far. Sean says, I went to private schools. I must have missed that class. Yeah. Yeah. I don't want anybody that's.
Did you go to a private school with George Bush's kids, though? Did you go to? That's fine.
Before we get into all these NASA and UFO stories, I want to look at this real quick.
Use that too, because that's cool.
Remember Weekly World News? Dentists refusing to fix vampires' teeth. Insurance companies are denying claims for expensive dental work on bloodsuckers, say docs. You know, I miss those magazines and Bat Boy. I bet they still make them. I haven't really seen them. All I see anymore is the Inquirer
I'm gonna
or
bring back that
the Sun.
Carter County specific.
That would be brilliant. I don't want to be
Pap Antonio.
disparaging.
Human growth hormones is coming back as sheriff. His new slogan is, let's get some ass. He's ripped.
Well, let's look here real quick. Let's have another one.
That's inspired. Has started carrying a giant stick to be inspired by The Rock.
Let's look at this real quick video from the New York Post. This is Kamala Harris talking to some kids about space exploration, supposedly.
Her name is Kamala.
So
That's how
what is
she
the most
says it.
surprising thing you found
That's how
about
she
being
said it.
vice president?
There have been a lot of things because I've never been vice president
Say it the
before.
way
So
she
there are many new things, but I'll tell you one of the things that I'm really excited about, and one of the reasons for our visit and the time we're going to spend time together today is the Space Council. My mom was a scientist, so she would take us to the lab with her, like on the weekends and after school, because she had to work long hours. And I just love the idea of exploring the unknown. And then there's other things that we just haven't figured.
Like Willie Brown's man parts. That kind of unknowns, Kamala.
They're getting faker and faker, aren't they?
Yeah, well, these
Never
are
discovered yet.
actors, and they
To think
released
about
this
so
as
much
if
that's
it was
out
a candid
there
conversation
that we
with kids.
still have to learn.
But this was a
Like, I
scripted.
love that. I love that. And so I'm
Performance
very
with
excited
actors.
about the Space Council. We're going to learn so much
At least Obama was
as
likable
we
when he did it.
increasingly, I think,
Yeah.
are curious and interested in
Trump,
the
I mean,
potential for the discoveries and the work we can do in space. So that's one of the things I'm most excited about. But the other, you guys are going to see. You're
She's
going to
thinking
literally see the craters on the moon with your own eyes.
Oh my goodness.
With your own
With your own
eyes,
eyes.
I'm telling you, it is going
she
to
mean
be
not through a telescope?
unbelievable.
But yeah, she's catching some heat for, doing the fake thing that politicians do and pretending that was a real conversation, but it's not. But why are they getting into this kind of stuff? Why is this spacey stuff getting back into the news? I've got a whole wave of articles here of stuff from where UFOs and aliens and UAPs are getting back in the news. But I did want to hit this real quick. This is from the Nashville Scene. This is a reprint of it's a looking back from August 31st, 2013, about the Great UFO Wave of 1973, which brought an autumn of aliens to Middle Tennessee. This is referring to 1973, and that was kind of as the Vietnam War was winding down, and you had tension in the Middle East between Israel and Egypt, and there was basically an embargo from the OPEC countries. I don't know if they were OPEC at the time, but against the United States because they were supporting Israel. And this, you had the fall of 1973 was one of the largest UFO sightings in U.S. history, largest waves of UFO sightings in U.S. history. And a lot of these were in Middle Tennessee, and high strangeness on the ground also, like you see at like the Skinwalker Ranch or the Pennyroyal.
Yeah.
Let's see, we got, we're a mess, yes. Mario Cuomo's daughter was in my math class, and she would hold up her test papers. That's how I passed trigonometry. How about that, Sean? Yeah, we know Mario Cuomo. The bridge is named after him. Yeah, I guess you didn't know Andrew and Chris from CNN and Governor Cuomo, but that's pretty wild that you went to school with her.
Are you guys certain that the Cuomos are crooked? I mean, while I'm going to defend Biden's pedo,
I don't really know much about him, to be honest.
Go ahead and defend them and say that they're probably outstanding young lads who never did nothing wrong in their whole life too, huh?
Well, Andrew Cuomo put all the COVID people into the nursing homes and caused a lot of people to die unduly.
I felt like those two guys kind of like were just like almost like scapegoats for everybody to beat on during COVID because they just kept messing up so bad.
Well, like Chris Cuomo,
the news anchor got caught hanging out. He's like going out to like dinner and stuff when he was supposed to be quarantined.
Yeah, and he was fussing at everybody else for not following the science. But anyway, back to September 25th, 1973. You had Memphis, deputies in Memphis spotting a whirling, hovering craft sweeping the ground with two spotlights. You had in September 3rd, 1973, the Tennessean reported a sighting in South Nashville.
That's pretty good.
She helped me cheat like a good Democrat, said Sean. There was a lot of reports all through Nashville from all that fall. Nashville, Middle Tennessee, Memphis, lots of different UFO reports. And then we had this one. This was that was talking about 1973. But then we had this one. This is one of my favorite, some of the best UFO photos of all time. And I've never seen these debunked or explained in any way. But these are photos from July 14th, 1989 in Nashville. And if you go to UFOcasebook.com. That used to be one of my favorite sites for UFO photos and stuff. It's not really been updated
What's
much.
The provenance of this photo? Right word, provenance.
If you go to UFOcasebook.com, Nashville UFO, you can look that up. It's just some guy took these photos. Nobody was able to disprove them. There's a lot of weird things in them, like, okay, this is before you could really use a computer to make this thing, but you see things like the breaking and the beams of light that people thought was weird.
Well, right here in the middle, it kind of looks like a column. I could see how you would make this with a carnival ride.
Okay. Well, nobody ever debunked the thing. Or gave any explanation for anything other than this guy just saw this photo, these thing and took photos.
You showed me 3 pictures now. The other one, this is not showing it as much. This shows something else. The other 3 though has light coming down in all directions, and yet no matter what, there is a black column in the middle that is blocking out the light. It just looks like there's a pole there.
Okay, maybe there are. Maybe there is.
You see? So here, sit right there, and now go. If you go to the next one, every single one has that pole there that blocks the light from coming. It should be coming down all sides.
Let's go back and look at this one. Yeah, you don't see it down the back right there
You
either.
can even see the red discoloration.
If you look right here, you
in the
don't see it
middle.
either. You see it right here.
Yeah.
But you don't see any of the light coming down here either. But anyway, I thought those were some of the coolest photos that the most defined. They kind of look like the ET craft from ET.
What was that movie with the boom, 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 boom? Because they had that sort of shape.
Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah.
We got this from 1989. This is from the LA Times archives. Nashville refuses, this is after the Nashville UFO, Nashville refuses to roll out the red carpet for UFOs. The Nashville City Council shot down a bill calling for Nashville to construct a UFO landing pad, and the lone sponsor of the proposal conceded that some believe his elevator is not going to the top floor. Councilman George Darden insisted he's serious that you need to build a landing port for an unidentified flying object. You might live to regret this day, Darden told the council after the 27-1 vote against his proposal Tuesday night. George Darden, I guess, basically wants to be like the guys on what's that movie, Independence Day, where they're all up on the roof like, and then they get blasted. My advice is to stay, have you seen Mars Attacks? Have you seen Independence Day? Stay away from these guys till you figure out what in the hell you're doing, and figure out some way to make some kind of a virus to kill them.
Maybe that's what they're doing. COVID only kills aliens.
Maybe.
That makes a lot of people's relatives aliens. I apologize.
Let's see. Let's look here. This is a recent UFO video from Washington State.
What is that? That's weird looking.
It's a strange looking object. I'm not sure what it is. Nobody really has a good answer for it. It looks kind of fake, but I don't know. Pretty wild looking. A lot of little videos like this coming out all over the country.
I have pretty good discernment. My eyesight's just garbage.
It kind of looks like the Slave One that Boba Fett flies. Not from that angle though. It's kind of seems to be kind of going around at an angle. And Alvin says, "Here's Piney Flats' chance to upstage Nashville. Build it in Piney Flats, they'll come." Yeah, yeah. You go right ahead, Alvin. You want to have dinner with the aliens? Let me know how that goes. And
Depends on what they're having.
Yeah, why not? It can't be any worse than
they just
other things happen.
just be sure you have them over for dinner. They don't have you for dinner. Now, I wanted to show you.
Oh, that brings up that Samson. No, not the Samson's reference. What? Or was it Futurama? It's like, why don't you just eat them? The aliens. Which show was that from?
That sounds like Futurama. There's the one where Fry was captured by the aliens from Omicron Persei 8, and they were going to eat him. No, they were going to eat his wiener. Remember they called it his what'd they call it? His front horn or something, or his lower horn?
It was human horn.
Yeah, his lower horn.
Yeah. There was another one too. I think the one you're talking about is that he's watching an episode and his wife walks in and he goes, "I don't understand. Why does the big rock
that's what it is.
The smaller friend?"
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. Let me show you my UFO that I took near Watauga Lake. This was 2016, so this was 6 years ago, on October 18th, and it does seem like we see an uptick in the fall. Who knows why?
Aliens like spooky season 2, damn it.
They want to be included in the horror movie list, so they start coming out in October. They're tired of Freddy Krueger getting all the spotlight during the fall, so they want in on that action. But here's my video of a crazy looking sphere that I was able to capture. That's my daughter talking. She was like 4 years old at the time. It's perfectly round. And this is just one of many strange objects I've seen in the sky near Watauga Lake. This is just the only one I ever got a good video of. And it's so strange because this thing, that's exactly how it looked to the naked eye right there. Like just a round object. And I zoomed in as close as I could and tried to keep it clear, but it wouldn't, it was still looked like a sphere. I guess it could have been a drone. But this was about 6 years ago. Those things weren't really available on the commercial market that could fly like that at the time. I mean, they were, but you're talking thousands of dollars for something like that way back then, and it had to be a long ways away if it was a drone.
The EDA might have one.
It's possible.
That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, it's possible. But I just don't know what it was. And when I zoomed in, it still appeared to be a sphere. When I could get it to focus. So who knows? Maybe it was shining like, yeah, it was moving. It went down around behind the trees eventually.
I've never seen anything look completely round like that before.
What if it's one of them quick moving stars?
A wanderer. And that's what the planets used to be. The planets were wanderers, but they moved day after day. They didn't move all at once like that. But so yeah, there's my UFO video. There was also the story. Now we're talking historic UFOs, some too, and we've got this story from the original story was from September 6, 2018, and they updated it in 2020 from History.com. When UFOs buzzed the White House and the Air Force blamed the weather. And you had these crazy radar readings come up near the White House, and of course it scrambled, this was in 1952, and, I guess radar was still fairly new technology, but they had these weird readings come up in near the White House in the Capitol building, and the Air Force came in, and one of the pilots even reported chasing some of these things in crafts that outran the jets, and where they were thinking, is this nuclear Soviet invasion? Because this was the height of the Cold War, and some people were saying they were UFOs, but anyway, the Air Force ended up saying that, this was like high pressure areas that were causing the radar to misread. But it's one of many kind of weird takes. You just had the Roswell incident where there was, and like Tim said, there was a CIA spying program using weather balloons at that time, so it would make sense that they didn't want anybody to find out what that was. But there's just a lot of weirdness around the Roswell, and we're not here to do a recap on that. You guys can look that up. There's a lot of people who have a lot better information on that than us. But
I've got all the good information on Roswell. I'm just not going to tell you.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I've been researching Roswell my entire life, exclusively Roswell.
For the low price of $9.99,
you too can know the secrets that I've learned from Roswell. You can own a glass jar full of Roswellian dirt.
Have you ever been to Roswell?
No. I don't know if I've ever been to New Mexico, to be honest with you.
My friend went down there and did the ET highway, and he said it's kind of just like, it's really cool, but it's just mostly a bunch of people selling stuff now.
It's mostly just a lot of desert and stuff.
Yeah.
I personally think the desert, instead of just going to Roswell, it would be better for you just to go hang out in the desert for a while, because you'll see a lot of cool stuff in the sky as it is.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, anywhere you look.
It's just desert spooky. It's cool.
We got this from History.com. And talking about USOs. And he's talking about also Chris Columbus reported seeing these things come up out of the water.
Suddenly, unearthly lights are seen flashing across the bottom of the ocean.
This person's name was Gutierrez.
And it's reported in Christopher Columbus's journals where they're getting this.
With Christopher Columbus, and noticed an object rising out of the water, a disc-shaped object.
So that's pretty strange, but I'll show you. You'll see why I'm getting all this here in a minute. We've also got, if we can go back even further, we can go back. I mean, you can go back to the Bhagavad Gita and the Mahabharata of Indian texts where they talk about Vimana and giant city-sized crafts that flew across the sky and had weapons, and there's all kinds of stuff as you go back, in history all over the country or all over the world. We even go back to the Bible, and there's the famous passage we talked about on this program before, where Ezekiel 1:1, he talks about wheels within wheels like a gyroscope. He says, this is from BibleGateway.com, but this is just straight out of the Bible. He says, when I was in well, we'll skip this right here. He says, I saw an enormous dust storm come from the north, an immense cloud with lightning flashing from it, a huge ball of fire glowing like bronze. Within the fire were what looked like 4 creatures vibrant with life. Each had the form of a human being, but each also had 4 faces and 4 wings. Their legs were as sturdy and straight as columns, but their feet were hooved like those of a calf and sparkled with the fire like burnished bronze. All 4 sides under their wings they had human hands, and all 4 had both faces and wings, with the wings touching one another. They turned neither one way or the other. They went straight ahead. And he continues to describe them. And then he says, as I watched the 4 creatures, I saw something that looked like a wheel on the ground beside each of the 4-faced creatures. This is what the wheels looked like. They were identical wheels, sparkling like diamonds in the sun. It looked like they were wheels within wheels, like a gyroscope. Now, I didn't know they had gyroscopes back in the biblical time. Did you know that? Or what? I wasn't aware of that. Here is Ezekiel's vision. This is an illustration of it.
Well, they would have had to have had pyramids back in the Bible times with the pyramids. And
no, a gyroscope. I mean, they have gyroscope back then?
Oh, a gyroscope. I'm just thinking of like just measuring utensils. And
that's an artist depiction from back in the day. But we've got a couple other ones here I wanted to look at.
If we're going to use the ancient alien stuff, they probably actually did have gyroscopes.
Well, I'm just saying, did the people who, I don't know, I wasn't aware they had one that long.
5,500 years ago. That's a pretty advanced civilization.
Well, let's look at this one right here. This is another depiction of Ezekiel's creatures and the wheels within wheels. And a lot of people have said, if I was to see something like that, I'd be scared shitless. And I'd say anybody who was, when they talked about seeing the Lord, they were, rightfully freaked out in most situations. Let's look at this. Somebody did they tried to do a realistic depiction of exactly what the Bible literally describes of angels.
Looks like the eyeball creature off Gumball.
So let's look at some of these. These are what people took the words straight out of the Bible and made them as much like the physical description in the Bible that they could.
I wonder if you got the really good AI, how you can write stuff into it and it just depicts it in live time. It's like, just type that part of that verse in there and see what it does.
Sean says, I love the desert. When I lived in LA, I would drive out on Route 66 past Barstow and stay in scary motels like the Bates Motel. And Alvin says, Roswell in 1947, 9 months later, Al Gore is born. Yeah, we just did a video on Operation High Jump. Alvin, if you want to check that back, it was like 3 or 4 episodes ago, something like that.
Or was it just Antarctica?
It was Antarctica, and we talked about High Jump a lot. And this is the depiction of, I think, the seraphim right there is what he's doing. And
a very boatable creature, I must say. I'd hit that.
You would, Tim. I agree.
That in the Most High choir.
Well,
my girl's an angel.
I wanted to hit that because this map was circulating, and let's see what the ESRI is. And the ESRI, I'm not sure what that is. I wanted to see where this map came from. But it's a map of all reported UFO sightings from 1906 to 2014. And somebody posted this saying basically that, well, this is a Western phenomenon, that only the U.S. and Eastern European countries really report these things. But I'm going to have to beg to differ a little bit. If you look, they're all over the world. They're less frequent in places like South America and Africa, but there are stories in Africa and Russia and all over the world of people seeing UFOs, and yeah, they are more frequent. But I think maybe people
this is reported though.
Yeah.
A lot of the places that aren't, they're more sparsely populated areas, or areas that they're like, Hey, think of things like that. But yeah, go ahead.
No, you're right, Dustin, and I think they don't have the technology to even report it if they wanted to in a lot of these places. And another thing is we decided these were weird at some point and we'd start reporting them, but if they saw them regularly, Would they really even think it was anything weird? Would they even think to report it, even if they did have the technology to do it?
Probably just think it's us.
Yeah. I mean, you got Americans flying planes by all the time. You got, stories in Japan or in the islands out in the Pacific where the U.S. was using as staging areas in World War II, and they flew in onto some of these islands, and flew in rations and cigarettes and all kinds of luxuries that these people had never known. And then when the GIs left with the end of the war, these people built like thatch and wooden planes and replicas to try to convince the people to come back. They thought they had been visited by the gods.
I think people are assholes. I think they do this all the time, and I think by some point, somebody, it ain't gonna hurt nothing, people. Somebody take a plane, go in and land, give them a bunch of crap, and they'll go, "Hey, it worked," and then you fall off, and you've done something good. Because they're not going to stop building those planes.
Yeah.
Might as well go, give them a second coming.
But then they may think that that's all they have to do, and they'll stop fishing. And
they've been doing it for like 40 years straight.
Yeah.
I think they should. Somebody should, fly a plane in there, give them some booze and some wheat. I don't know, some manga, and then leave. And then come back 40 years later.
Some manga, huh? Alvin says, check out Mystery History and the ooh part. I don't know what that is. Ooh part. Okay, we'll check that out. Zero, or is that 00? That looks like 00 part. Cool, we'll check that out, Alvin. Yeah, Alvin, if I can't remember if I read this or not. He said Roswell in 1947, 9 months later, Al Gore was born. Look up the Moonchild theory. Have you ever heard that one?
I have. Go ahead. Tell us about it.
It was pretty interesting. It was to do with Crowley and Oppenheimer and Jack Parsons, and basically
out of place artifacts.
That they may have out of place artifacts. Okay. All right. Thanks, Alvin. We'll check that out.
Have you seen, for example, Alvin? Have you seen? I'm sure you have. It's one of the very popular ones where it's like it looks like a submarine gear that's like they've dated to be a couple thousand years old. It's a really, really weird looking metal piece. It's like all kinds of gears and shit inside of it.
Oh yeah, what is that called?
It's way more impressive. It's like a bad guy battery's cool, but then you see this and you're like, that looks like that came off of like a submarine or something.
I forget what they call that piece, but there's
like the mechanism.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Definitely a wild one. I wish I could think of what that was called to tell you what to look up. But we've seen it back in the news big time lately. This is from a video from the Today Show, and we're just going to do commentary on this for a second.
We're going to begin with the story that's getting a lot
We're doing commentary.
A rise in reports of UFOs, unidentified flying objects.
And they're going to show a few clips of these things. Fair use. And this is a lot of reports from pilots. And recently we had the TikTok video. That's been how old is it? It's almost 20 years old, the actual TikTok video, but they let it out that the military didn't know what it was, and they let out all the details on it that they're going to, I guess, between I think about 2015 was when they really started hitting that up. Oh yeah, the Antikythera mechanism. Yeah, so let's pull that up real quick.
Okay, yeah, that.
You seen that?
Yeah.
When I tried to type in it originally, all it brought me up was like a bunch of like.
I'll pull that up real quick.
Yeah.
I typed in ancient gears.
Yeah. Complex system of 30 wheels and plates with inscriptions relating to the zodiac, months, and eclipses.
It's supposed to look like restored.
Oh.
I think it's supposed to look like that restored.
What's it say, Jordan?
Yeah.
Some kind of a astrological calendar is what they think it was.
Interesting.
It's just
and here is here's a guy who made a model of what he thinks it would be.
They seem to follow the prevalence of nuclear power plants or nuclear test sites, is what he's talking about with UPART. And maybe nuclear power isn't old, or maybe it's just a rediscovered technology that we invent.
Well, they say Oppenheimer acts
with that, where I've said in one of the past episodes how they've dug down in India and stuff, and all those people that were digging got sick because they found nuclear waste, like where it should be like thousands of years down in the dirt. You're like, this shouldn't be here. because there are elements in there that are only found they're not found in nature. It's only found from depleting like nuclear stuff, like depleted uranium.
And well, I'm not really familiar enough with this because it's been a long time since I watched it. They used to be on YouTube. It was a series called The Arrivals, and it was based on the Quran and a lot of the UFO stuff in it. And I linked that in the description. They've got it on Daily Motion. They've got 35 videos of it. I think it was actually longer than that, but YouTube pulled it all down. But it was basically the UFO history in Islam. So I linked that if you're interested in watching it in the description of the video. But you know, today they're showing, we've got this new stuff we're going to do with UFOs. Kamala Harris, she's talking about, you know, new space bases and stuff like this. Well, now we've got this from October 19th, just 3 days ago, or 4 days ago, 2022. Well, yeah, 3 days ago. New territory. America's top aerospace sleuths join UFO hunt. And NASA announced its plan to study UFOs back in June, and that's a long exposure photo of a drone right there that they've got. That's not a UFO. It just kind of shows the track that it takes through the sky. But NASA is got a large organization of government and private sector technical experts, and they're launching a project to study unidentified aerial phenomenon, what we used to call UFOs. I guess though, technically they don't have to be flying if they are, you know, in the sky. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are flying. Alvin says it's a Greek artifact that was used for astral navigation. Yes indeed. And makes you wonder how much, and he's talking about the Antitheka.
It goes into the like the rediscovered theory, where the reason the Romans kind of sort of just sucked really bad. Like, if you go do, like, art stuff, they'll show you how Roman statues are nothing but an attempt to do Greek statues, and they always do it incorrectly. And a lot of their art and stuff's the same way, and I'm wondering, like, if maybe we just didn't inherit everything. That's why we don't understand a lot of the stuff we have fully.
Well, I think we'll get into that Greek and Roman architecture another time. We've got enough on our plate already, but I've got an interesting thing about that, so we'll do that another time. But the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics, which includes among its members the largest defense and NASA contractors, has established 3 committees to study the technology, how incursions affect pilot and passenger safety, and coordinate with top government agencies and international researchers also focused on the topic. Top men, Dr. Jones. Top men. Now this is they're saying it's a new territory because it's basically like it's out in the open now. All these military pilots are coming out and documenting. A lot of these guys, they used to say they were afraid to document it because everybody would tell them they were crazy. So most people, they all saw them, but they just didn't report them to anybody because they didn't want to hear about, oh, so and so's out there butt humping the little green men or whatever it was that his buddies would tell him, you know, back at.
Look, it's a SOP. Keep them all in check.
Could be.
Give them UFOs and then punish them for reporting to drive all the pilots crazy, so they don't admit that the Earth's flat. No.
It could be, Tim. It's hard to tell.
Porn.
Hard to tell there. Yeah. That's a whole other thing. But I'm going to look at this. We're going to be discussing this article from The Hill. It's an opinion piece by Marieke von Rennenkampf, who is an opinion contributor, and he is a former intelligence person. But he goes into the Greek mythology of Cassandra's curse. Now let's look at Cassandra real quick. She is the Cassandra metaphor, also labeled the Cassandra syndrome, or the complex phenomenon, predicament, dilemma, and curse, relates to a person whose valid warnings and concerns are disbelieved by others. And this comes from Greek mythology. And Cassandra was daughter of Priam, the king of Troy. And Apollo gave her the gift of prophecy, but when she refused to bone him, he placed a curse on her that nobody would believe her prophecy. So she always has everything right, but nobody ever believes her. And this is where we get into Cassandra's curse with the UFO.
Quote Dr. Ian Malcolm, I hate being right all the time.
Well, if you follow her story all the way through in the text, which is mythology, they cover all the loopholes. Because like if you look and people, because immediately I thought was like, why would she just lie and tell them the opposite? That way she would think it. But it was like the intention was already occurred, because at one point she tries to tell other people so they will report. It was like there was all these fail safes where no matter what, people always thought she was crazy. So it's like she always knew what was going to happen, but nobody would ever believe her.
Right. Alvin, yeah, I'd love if you shared this with your friend in Wichita and another in Cedar Rapids. Yeah, please do. Send it to anybody out there that's watching this show. Send it to somebody. We'd love to have your input. Yeah, anybody that's into this kind of stuff. Like I said, we've not really pushed this channel too much because we want people like you, Alvin, if you enjoy it, to share it with people that you like. We've kind of been developing the craft of putting on a show over the years. It's interesting and entertaining to people, and we try to have some new perspectives on things. We really haven't. I mean, we're not really pushing for views or subscribers or anything. We're trying to have a good conversation, and if people want to tune in and join us for that, then we'd love to have you. But we don't care how many videos or views we really get. That's not really what we're into. But yeah, appreciate you saying that. Alvin says we got game. Appreciate that. But to get back into this, we're looking at. They're talking to Richard Clark, former counterterrorism czar, and he writes in warnings, finding Cassandras to stop catastrophes, modern day Cassandras, experts who sound the alarm over catastrophic or paradigm shifting events and are often ignored. And I've linked this article in the description if y'all want to check it out. Richard Clark, he served in the Reagan administration and both Bush administrations, and he says he's all too familiar with the phenomenon. He says, like the engineer who foresaw the Space Shuttle Challenger catastrophe, the lone intelligence analyst who warned of Iraq's invasion of Kuwait, the Louisiana State University professor who issued dire predictions years before Hurricane Katrina, or the outsiders who foresaw the 2008 financial collapse, Clark's desperate warnings of an impending terrorist attack fell on deaf ears before September 11th, 2001. Now, when we get into all these things, what do these events have in common? And to me, let's finish it. Let's do a little bit more of the article. In 2017, Clark writes about the risks of global infectious disease outbreaks, and a lot of people were. Nobody listened, right? Nobody listened. Nobody did anything about it. And he's saying that with all these secret aircraft and things that are not responsible for the encounters that we're seeing, the military's telling their people that these are not military crafts that they're seeing when they report these things. And there's no evidence that there's a foreign power behind them. And he feels like, well, we need to sound the alarm on this. But I look back at what the examples he gave earlier, September 11th, the 2008 crash, the 2017 people warning about a global disease outbreak. I don't think it's that nobody's listening to these people. I think it's that the people who are in charge of these wheels or these levers of powers, they don't need this lone Cassandra to tell them about this. They already know it's going to happen, and in fact, they are invested in the outcome. So if they've already put all their money towards preparing for when this eventually does happen, what good would it do them to listen to someone who is telling them it's coming and try to stop it? They already know it's coming and they're invested in it. Just like 9/11, you had, James Woods was on a flight with the hijackers and reported them to the FBI, and nothing happened. No, the FBI was watching, and they all knew then, oh, well, now since that, they failed in their intelligence, well, we now need a new department to combine CIA, NSA, and FBI and be able to spy on all of us all the time, be able to look at us at the airport. Okay, Michael Chertoff was the first Secretary of Homeland Security, and he was the guy who made, with his company, the Chertoff Group, the scanners that went in all the airports whenever it became a law that TSA had to be put in all the airports. They had to go through these full body scanners. He had this ready. And I think if you look at all these different, like just for example, the Bear Stearns and the market crash in 2008, the dot-com bubble in 2001, the housing crisis from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, all this stuff was reported and it was ignored, but it wasn't ignored because they didn't want to do anything about it. It was ignored because there were people who already knew that it was coming in and were invested in the outcome. At least that's my opinion. And I think that this UFO thing is no different. So what are they invested in? What is the outcome that they're looking for? What is the phenomenon? I don't know. But there's been a lot of talk about Project Bluebeam over the years. Now, Serge Monast is the one who brought the thing to light in 1994. But I don't know. Does anybody have any source for this information, or is this guy where it came from? It's because it's supposedly, from NASA, and what it is would be a project to either project aliens or Jesus or the Virgin Mary or Muhammad or
Project Bluebeam is it's
going to project this stuff onto the sky.
I'm trying to find a way to say this without giving you a giant paragraph. There's different levels of conspiracy theories. This one, in order for this one to work, you have to get a bunch of them involved. And the idea is chemtrails have turned the sky into a mirror, and there's a certain kind, and you can't see it because it's a certain kind of material that's in the sky that's visible.
And we do know there is a stratospheric aerosol injection happening.
Well, the idea is that they've made some kind of a beam that only reflects off of the particles that they put in the sky, so they can put holograms up there, and that they will use it to use a fake Jesus, fake alien Messiah, fake Imam. Who knows? You could do anything at that point. Yeah. I'm not saying I believe it, but that's where it comes from.
Well, Tim sent me this earlier today. This is the Daily Loud. The new advertising concept would turn the night sky into ads. People would see brands instead of seeing stars when they look up. And this kind of reminds me of Michael Crichton's book, Next, where he's talking about evolution. And in that book, they're advertising, they're having genetically modified creatures who are like bioluminescent sea creatures who they're putting Coca-Cola ads on, or all this different genetic engineering they're doing to put it on animals. And then there was what was it Austin Powers, or who was it that did the advertisements on the moon? No, what was that? What movie was that where they had using the moon as a big billboard?
I was thinking The Tick, when he tries to put Chairface Chippendale across and he gets his chaw.
Hey, spilled the tea all over me. You're late, but you're here. Thank you for joining us. I'm glad you're here. And go back and check the beginning of the video out whenever you get done, and I think you'll find it pretty entertaining.
It's kind of fun that we have a song from back in the day that had this subject matter.
That's right. Yeah, I wrote the song with Hanging Judges, and we performed it some with Corned Beef and the Pillbillies. I don't know that we ever got any recordings of it.
No, we never recorded it, at least.
I don't think we did with Hanging Judges either. It was it was a concept song, basically, that country music from 2013 had ended the world, and the idea behind the song was that this was hundreds or thousands of years into the future, and the mechanism that projected onto the sky was still operating, but it was projecting country music stars from 2013 onto the sky, so the people on the earth thought that Luke Bryan and Jason Aldean and Miranda Lambert were gods, because the whole world was destroyed except for the devices projecting their images into the sky. Which I'd kind of like to write that one again, because that one had some really fun parts. It was a long song, but it was really fun. But yeah, I had that idea a while ago, and Dustin brought that to my attention, and I was like, oh yeah.
As soon as Tim sent that picture, I was like, hey, it's Honky Tonk Wasteland.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be a good one for us to record. I actually remember most of that song. There was, let me see if I can find this real quick. And I'll just kind of play it while we're talking here in the background. Because I do remember.
You choose the end with it.
A little bit. Well, it's just instrumental. We could end with it, yeah. But it's me and the boys that were in Hanging Judges, we were playing it, and it's just like a burning cigarette in an ashtray while we played a little bit, and it was really cool. Find this here. Of course, it's bringing up Armored Saint, the Hanging Judge. I don't even know if we have a channel for Hanging Judges. I bet it's on my Corned Beef Brisket channel. So I'll pull that up again. Yeah, if y'all are interested, Tim has a channel, the artist known as Tim, on YouTube, and me and Dustin, our band Corned Beef and the Pillbillies, is on YouTube also. If you want to check out some of the country music that Dustin and I made together, we neither are really like country music people, although I do love classic country, but modern country not so much. Well, I guess I don't have it on here.
I'll make an album of every genre at some point.
Yeah, I've done a little bit of everything on.
That's that whole hitting the target no one can see sort of. That's that whole genius where you're creating the target to hit. You know.
Yeah.
No one knows that needs to exist.
Well, I'll find that another time.
Nobody wants to hit that target, but I'm gonna make that target. Somebody will beat me to it. Somebody's already gonna have that.
And to quote The Offspring, I know you want to hit that.
I do.
All right. Well, I don't want to keep you waiting on me all night to do that, but okay, here we go.
My baby's an angel. She got 9,000 eyes.
You said My Baby, and then I've got this channel, this Hanging Judge's song called My Baby. We'll just.
That was a fun song too.
Yeah. Just let you hear this for a second. This is me and Jordan Buchanan on guitars and Hiram Sawyer on the Doghouse bass here, and we just recorded this in my basement. But it's good talking music, you know.
Unless it's not okay because you got good sound.
I guess that could happen. So we'll turn it down a little here. I guess I should turn it down on the computer end. There we go. But yeah, so I wanted to finish out talking about Project Bluebeam. And Serge, according to Serge Monast, we got Alvin says, "Got a scoot. God bless. Catch you next time." Thanks, Alvin. I appreciate it. Share that with your friends out there in Cedar Rapids and Wichita. We'd love for them to join us. And Spiel, glad you're here. Project Bluebeam was a 4-step project designed by NASA and the United Nations that would allow these organizations to accomplish what he believed to be their ultimate goal of creating a new age religion led by the Antichrist in order to start a new world order dictatorship. Now, this theory has been spread all over the internet. I've heard people talking about it for years. I've seen videos about it. I've never seen where he's allegedly got this information. Have you seen this?
There's a lot of conspiracies that don't require information. I think that's a lot of them.
Yeah, but I mean, just so many people talk about this as if it's fact. And to me, it seems like...
Well, Flat Earth seems like it's not a fact, too. There's more people probably talking about Flat Earth than there are people talking about Bluebeam at this point.
Yeah, you're probably right. But usually you have some sort of released information, and I mean, it just seems really feasible to me that this could be something that they would want to do, because you think about how many religions there are that if you put the figurehead of the religion into the sky, you could probably get them to do whatever you want. Yeah, your sky daddy spaghetti monster. I mean, you could literally probably put the flying spaghetti monster in the sky, and
the king. The king comes up with the sunrise.
He's holding a what do you call it? The croissant sandwich.
The Teletubby baby head, and just keep it in the sun all day long to drive people crazy.
Well,
so it giggles.
They're talking about how it's going to be used for advertising. That would be the hell of a use for Project Bluebeam. The king's trying to sell you
another step to idiocracy becoming more real. Having it's like the sky is owned by Carl's Jr.
They'll project like Nintendo will turn the moon into the thing from Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. There's the big smiley looking wicked thing.
Angry.
And people will be okay with it because they hate reality.
I hope I didn't leave the music too loud for y'all. I turned it down a little bit there.
Or, it's like, they're like, hey, come on, crash into us, please.
Well, Serge Monast claimed that movies like 2001: A Space Odyssey had already laid the psychological groundwork for this, presenting stories where mysterious objects were found that upend everything that humans know about themselves in the world, like say we're from a different planet basically, or that we were, something else came here and caused us to evolve into human. I never quite understood in 2001 exactly what he was saying. Was he saying we were from a different planet, or that we were apes and then the monolith came and turned us? Or
the monoliths were something. Every time a monolith appears, it gives us knowledge to advance ourselves.
Right.
Basically, at the very end of it, the aliens wanted us to be advanced enough so we can become their pets, more or less.
Okay.
At the very
or was this God?
It was Star Trek Episode 1. Star Trek Episode 1, the whole premise of it was they had evolved themselves to the point that they were gods, but they couldn't even pick up a screwdriver anymore, so they were willing to give humans the perfect life of infinite food and fucking if they would just repair the world that they had kind of left in a state of neglect. And then the woman that they had there was cool with the deal, but the captain pre-Kirk was like, well, this ain't cool. And they were like, well, we've decided to kick you off the planet anyway because we've done a bunch of research on your folk, and it turns out you are horrible in captivity,
and it's kind of,
we can't keep you.
And we see that motif a lot, including like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. We see a version of that with Earth being constructed for the spoiler alert, the Earth being constructed for the use of humans, and then in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the aliens come and they say we're gonna blow up the Earth to make a interspace highway. And I like the shot at the bureaucracy that Douglas Adams does, where he's like, well, don't you know that we filed this in the records room of the Galactic office? You just had to go see it.
Thank you,
Cliff. I can't find your other YouTube channel. Yeah, I'll link it. Let's see.
Just link it in the chat.
Yeah, I'll link it in the chat here. Just a second,
Which
Sean.
one do you want? This one or the one that has the...
I guess Pillbillies. Let me find that real quick.
Unless you're talking about his other YouTube channel where all he does is critique old vintage spice containers from Germany. It's a real niche habit or hobby that he's got, but him and his wife collect thimbles and old spice containers. It made me smell sick when I first walked in their house. They're like, smell the difference. One of them had nutmeg, the other didn't. Can you tell? Professionally cleaned.
We have time to kill right now.
All right. Let me put that in there for you there, Sean. For this one has me doing vocals and guitar and Dustin doing bass, and our buddy Josh Brock on the drums. And let me find that and stick it in here. I'm going to put this in the chat right now. Hopefully, if you're watching on PC, it'll be easy for you to follow. There you go.
I'm going to start a streaming service or a streaming channel called Wellington. And it's just going to be me waking up every day and fixing the same beef Wellington every day.
Man, I love beef Wellington.
It'd be an 8-hour stream every time, but...
I'm cooking again. You ever seen that Cooking with Kay lady? Oh my God, dude. Yeah. My wife got addicted to her for a day or two.
I found her through Dead Wing.
Oh man, look up Cooking with Kay if you want to see something really awful.
Oh, well, I'll send you a link to tell your wife to look up the party cheese salad. She thinks Kay's good. I know somebody else.
Party cheese salad. All right. Yeah. Well, to finish up, let's get back on to Project Bluebeam. Monas claimed that in 2001 they were basically seeding our consciousness for something, and that would go with a lot of these movies having the same main idea that humans were, seeded from another race, or they were somehow helped along. And we've seen the Christians, for example, they talk about the 2000 or the 5,000 year leap that was made, from no civilization to civilization. This seems to be pretty miraculous, and that kind of goes along with that. And maybe subscribe to Tim also. Thanks, Sean.
You, Sean.
I don't really put anything new on corned beef brisket,
probably put
but
new stuff
Tim
up,
does.
Probably spring. I bought some cameras and stuff. I just haven't really learned how to use any of it yet, but I'll get back into the YouTube game at some point.
Well, the second step that Surge claimed would be a gigantic space show, and there would be three-dimensional optical holograms like all over the sky, like you were talking about earlier. They would use like the aluminum and barium that they are allegedly seeding the atmosphere with the stratospheric aerosol injection. Some people did some tests, and whenever these things would spread out over their area, they would collect it and test the samples, and that's what they found was that it was overwhelmingly aluminum and barium salts, which a lot of people say is, well, I don't know about a lot of people, but that was people who were saying the Internet of Bodies was coming. They were saying that was a part of that, basically turning us into antennas by having these heavy metals in us, and that we would be basically wetware for transmission of data between human beings. But this also says that would be what they would use to project Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Krishna, whatever, onto the sky. They're all going to merge into one and create a new age religion, and maybe it's aliens. And you know, the aliens say, "Oh, all these different versions of us were what you all call your gods or whatever." But I mean, it'd be pretty hard if you had a realistic looking hologram in the sky. It'd be pretty hard to. Oh yeah, I'll link Tim too. It's TAKAT, the artist known as Tim. I'll link that right now.
It's a channel where I make wicker baskets. Mine's real hard to find because the art, my what is that when you use the words? It's like TAKAT. What is that? The artist known as Tim. What is that? Anagram? Acronym? The acronym for the artist known as Tim Takat is Hindi for power, which I did on purpose just because I liked it. Well, or maybe it was a happy accident. I don't know.
It was pretty easy to find for me, but maybe because I'm subscribed already.
Well, if you type in Takat, I'm not popular enough where I beat out the word that an entire language uses every day.
But you were pretty close there. If you search channel, it was pretty close to the top. Well, you were at the top for channel. So
heck yeah.
You are the biggest Takat scat channel in
the world. What did it? I definitely was not. It's where they gave out those handles. You remember handles were like a week or two ago? They gave me the top handle. I guess I'm the most active Takat out there.
All right.
Well, hell yeah.
Well, congratulations. And if you search your name, you are the most famous Tim Nave in the world.
I don't believe that.
If I Google you, you come up before anybody else.
There's another Tim Nave. One of the reasons I chose to go with a acronym instead of a Tim Nave was because if you type
in the Prince complex.
No, yeah. Actually, there's a guy I talked to yesterday. He was like, "Is that a Prince reference?"
Look at my Google results.
Okay, well, if I did that at home back in the day, the lead photographer for the UT Vols would pop up first. But I guess he doesn't have an album out, and I do now. So
I tried mine.
So I win, Tim. We're fans on Facebook. I'm gonna go brag to him.
I got a few Cliff Brooks ahead of me.
Google, buddy.
This guy is the Southern Collective Experience Cooperative of Writers, Musicians, and Visual Artists. That's who gets the head, Cliff Brooks there.
He does what about now? Me?
Let's look up Dustin Goff.
Man, that's very vague, isn't it? A collective of musicians and visual artists.
Sounds like a famous guy for no reason. Or a guy trying to be famous for no reason. Dustin Goff Worldwide.
Ooh. Click it.
Dustin Goff Worldwide Ministry.
Oh, you're a minister. So you're a minister. I'm number one, Tim, apparently now, and Cliff is number two, only outranked by a poser.
It's a Christian church worldwide. But let's see.
Dustin, you're like, damn it, I was hoping it was like a speed metal player.
But you're the top result for Dustin Goff.
Well, you're also logged in on your.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So
yeah, that would make sense.
On there, so you're,
So that's what I'm saying. Like with the Google thing, I wonder if it just knows we're linked on somewhere.
Well, maybe. But on yours, I'm not signed into Facebook on my phone, so I Googled you on my phone, and you were the first one that came up.
Well, I'm really proud. Man. Not too many
and I don't even. But listen, when I search myself, I don't come up first, even though I'm logged into my Facebook.
That makes sense. Good point.
But anyway, let's finish up Project Blueborn. The whole sky is basically turned into a massive movie screen, and this new god speaks to everyone in their own language, and this is where mind control would take center stage. Telephonic communication devices would send waves to reach each person within their own mind, convincing them each that their own god is speaking to them from the very depths of their own soul.
It's like my new god is going to be the Yngwie Malmsteen Shreds. He's like, I am your new god. That's gonna be what plays.
He won't even talk. He just answers through guitar licks. You just kind of got to know what he means.
Well, this is from 2009 or 2007. This is from Wired magazine talking about DARPA. Voice of God weapon returns. A device that projects into your head to make you think God is speaking to you is the military's equivalent of an urban myth. Meaning, get out of here, Wired. It's mentioned periodically at defense workshops, but they came out with this. They had this shit in like 2008. Right after that, they were doing it for, I forget what channel it was, A&E maybe. They were doing a spooky show, and they did promos for it with people walking down the streets of New York, and they would aim this thing that would beam the promo sounds in their head, like scary stuff into their head, and they would record their reactions, and then they'd go talk to them and say, because nobody else around them would hear them. They would aim it directly at one person.
What are they using? Is that V2 skull? Is it? You heard that?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, and they were using it.
I'd be pissed if they used that.
They were using it on the A&E channel. I'm pretty sure that's who it was. It was somebody that's doing one of those ghost shows.
Okay, in case to explain how this works real quick, they essentially send a resonant beam at your head, and they rattle your skull at the same frequency as the message they want to send you.
Yeah. So it's basically turning your bone in your head into a receiver.
Yeah.
Basically the way that your ear works, except they don't have to actually send sound waves for your ear has to have the sound wave vibrating your ear for it to pick it up. But no, they're sending it at the resonant frequency, which is quiet. It actually doesn't make a sound. It only makes a sound in your head. And that's what he's talking about that they would be using here with...
It reminds me of the novelty toy from the 90s as a child. Like, I forgot what they're called, like the suckers. If you stuck the plastic sucker stick in and you had it, and you could actually... It'd play song clips when you went into it, and because it vibrated.
Never heard of that.
Yeah.
And then there was one that came out, and it would play. You could play the FM radio, and you could bot down on the sucker, and you can hear it in your head.
Mm-hmm. I hated those.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Because it would like rattle your teeth and stuff.
Yeah. But there was some pretty decent fidelity out of that. Because it uses your head as a resonance chamber.
No kidding. I had no idea that was a thing.
I don't remember what they were called.
Well. There was
blue beam sucker.
Yeah.
Blue beam blueberry is the flavor.
Spill the Tea says Yngwie Malmsteen. No. Sean said Yngwie Malmsteen. And Spill the Tea says Buckethead. Buckethead. Hey, Buckethead was playing in Guns N' Roses for a little while. I don't know if y'all heard. Y'all know the band Necrogoblicon?
Yeah.
Have you heard their recent album that came out this past summer? Did it not sound like Necrogoblicon playing a Guns N' Roses album to you a little bit?
Maybe.
I thought it had a very, very Guns N' Roses sound. Not just the vocalists, but just the overall sound of some of the songs had a little bit more of a rock sound to it. But it was an enjoyable album.
Buckethead's more rock anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Buckethead's done collaborations with everybody,
including KFC. Has he done KFC yet?
I don't know.
He should.
I mean, if he hasn't, they're really missing the boat on that, or missing the bucket.
Unless he's like, no, that's where I draw the line of my artistic creativity.
He's like, I will wear the bucket on my head, but I'm not collaborating with.
I will not get the grease on my fingers.
It's only for his luxurious hair.
Let's look at some of these comments here on. This article was written by Kara Goldfarb from New York City here on allthat'sinteresting.com, and she's saying that it's one of the craziest conspiracy theory there is.
No one cared entirely.
And then they get into they want to push you into the Paul is dead conspiracy theory, which is
the Beatles.
Yeah.
That just seems like they're just trying to throw you into a different direction. Like, here, look at this.
Doesn't it? I mean, it's crazy, just like the Paul's dead theory. I mean, look at this. Spartan commented a year ago, in the year 2021, he doesn't look so mad now, does he? And then Love to Clear Clouds commented 3 weeks ago. It's not a theory, but it is a conspiracy, and it's already begun. The huge earthquake last week in Papua New Guinea was just one of the man-made destructive events as part of Blue Beams. The Vatican has announced last week that a new Fatima prophecy artifact has been discovered. Hey, look at Fatima, man. I really want to look at that one time. That's very interesting as a Catholic prophecy, but we don't have time to get into it tonight. But it says next 34, and they're talking about the October surprise. She says Biden signed an EO on March 9th concerning digital assets. EMP attacks are planned on the eastern half of the U.S. They will say it's either a solar flare or aliens. The last card, according to Werner von Braun, the holographic deities will soon appear. All those 5G towers. Now, YouTube, just so you know, before you strike me, I'm just reading some crazy comments on the site. So, don't strike us for talking about this, because it says all this 5G towers they installed on lockdowns are part of this. My military communications insider says 5G has nothing to do with mobile phone service. Well, 5G does suck. I will say. Anytime my phone is on 5G, even with a full signal, it does not do as good as if I have like 3 bars of 4G.
I can't wait for 6G.
No shit. That's when it's supposed to go into your brain, into your eye.
So probably like when it's like just a
and
in your head. You take the blue beam with you everywhere.
And Elon is doing his Neuralink project is he's set to unveil a new update in it in November 2022. I think November 30th. November 30th. Elon Musk's Neuralink delays show and tell event. They're going to put it off to November 30th. Now, it sounds like, I mean, if I were a paraplegic and I was able to plug Elon's device into the back of my head and move my arms and legs again, fuck yeah, I'd do it. You know,
everybody will do it. But
I'm not going to do this to play video games or
what if it could
use my Visa card faster. Well, I'm just saying, there are certain situations where I could see myself doing something like that.
I think that's how they're going to get people.
But yeah, I think so. I think you could be right.
Because what he's not even talking about because like the thing that they were really amped about was one of the prototypes for memory expansion. And for anybody that thinks that's just impossible, it's actually not. The one that most people are interested in is the one most people are interested in is fixing immobile body parts and stuff, and that's actually the easiest thing to fix because all your sensory stuff is right on the very top.
Yeah, and all you have to do is, I mean, to oversimplify it, you're just bypassing the spinal cord. You're
cutting a giant chunk out of the skull out, and you're putting a chip right there. They only have to bypass the spine. They can, according to Neuralink's way of using whatever they call the microfibers and stuff, they aim to fix the spine and stuff too, is what they're saying. So,
well, at any event, you're looking at, I think potentially, if this is something that they're really trying to do, you're looking at another link in that process. Whereas you don't have to have it projected on the sky. You can have it projected into your brain. If they get everybody on this thing, and you think about it, it's going to be really tempting, especially when you get older. And like you said, dude, eyes start to go. You get macular degeneration. You start, well, I'm just going to have this chip in to fix my eyes. And it sounds good, just kind of like if you're a paraplegic or you're just getting old.
It fixes everything.
Yeah.
I'm saying nobody's going to say no at that level when they say it's going to fix your eyes, and I can't make you younger, but what I can do is turn off your pain receptors.
And turn off your aging.
And that's actually way more in the realm of possibility than I think the layperson would think. And on top of that, it is going to be super useful for gaming because actually feeling stuff is the missing link in VR.
Yeah. Well, Jared Kushner, Trump's son, he was famously said his son-in-law, married to Ivanka. He said that he famously said that his generation is going to be either the last to die or the first generation to live forever. Let me find his exact quote. If I could type.
Who wants to live forever?
Jared Kushner does. This is from the Daily Beast from August 2025. It says Jared Kushner thinks he's going to live forever, and he says he wants to be in good shape, and he's been working out a lot more since he left the White House because he says he thinks there's a good probability that my generation is, hopefully, with the advances in science, is either the first generation to live forever or the last generation that's going to die. So we need to keep ourselves in pretty good shape. Now, this guy is one of the elite of the elite. He's out there. He bought 666 Fifth Avenue in New York City. Bought that building for way over the asking price, or way over the valued price. A lot of people say so he could have the 666 Fifth Avenue.
Chump.
He was
666 Avenue.
Yeah. Well, Fifth Avenue is the big.
Doesn't even understand.
Who wants Sixth Avenue?
You would want Fifth Avenue. Fifth Avenue is actually a foundation.
Yeah, that's the big.
Number, so he actually probably does know what he's doing.
And it's the big. One of the biggest streets in New York as far as valuable real estate and commercial products.
It's also a candy bar eaten by tools named Jared Kushner.
All right. Not anymore because he's trying to stay in shape to live forever.
He's a liar.
But we also have the metaverse is being improved now too.
No, it's not.
No. You've seen the old metaverse on the Oculus 2. It looks like shit. It looks like Mario. It looks like
worse
Wii.
than Second Life.
Looks like Nintendo Wii characters. The upcoming ones that they've got.
Yeah, but Nintendo Wii characters were supposed to look like that.
I think they wanted us to laugh at it, man, because
you think they want everybody to laugh? It's like a publicity stunt, and then round 2 is going to come in.
Yes,
it's like Skyrim. Yes, it's just amazing.
Look.
It's possible because it does look ridiculously bad. When they were like, "Here comes legs, we all can have legs now."
No, dude, the stuff that is coming, VR. It requires a headset that is like $1,700 right now, and it has to be 8K for each eye. But it is super realistic looking.
My issue is okay. I'm not saying you're not wrong. My issue is there's nobody in the metaverse.
No, there's not.
Like, there's nobody in there.
No,
There's
there's
like
not. But
300 people or something crazy.
But
like that.
when it gets cool and it gets affordable, like you get that shit down to $200-$300 for that headset, and you just look how quickly the television, everything else has risen in cost comparatively to wages and inflation. You go back to the 1950s, cars, houses, everything.
I think Zuckerberg's not counting what I'm going to call the Tom effect, though.
Except televisions. Televisions have gone down compared to inflation. Everything else has gone up.
Well, this would
So
have
you can tell
gone
us
down
about the
too,
Tom effect.
except you're actually just paying for your like your plan and crap up front. So your phones actually aren't that expensive if you buy it front. The Tom effect is MySpace effectively created the like base level for everybody to imitate and then shut them down. So I feel like the metaverse could be setting themselves up for failure. He could do exactly, because they essentially just used MySpace to launch themselves up Facebook, level. And they might be doing the same thing themselves. They could create the perfect VR environment and then everybody could imitate it and then jump ship.
Well, like the Pentagon created LifeLog, and DARPA created the Sentient World Simulator, which shut down the day before Facebook was started. You never know what this thing could evolve into. You could have the metaverse be shut down. Everybody laughs at the metaverse, and it shuts down, and then something else pops up doing the exact thing because people are on to the whole Facebook LifeLog meta thing. So maybe they, who knows what comes up. But either way, I think there's something in the air about UFOs. Cassandra's curse is not. They said it's alive and well, but I think that it comes right down to there are people invested in whatever this outcome is that's happening, and that's why that nobody's really looking at it or doing anything about the UFO phenomenon, except for now you see NASA doing it. But like I said, I think they're going to come to a conclusion that's going to benefit certain people who were ready for it all along, and I don't know what that is. But when you have this guy Richard Clark comparing it to all these other when prophets of doom were not listened to before these big events. He was the guy who was in the both Bush administrations and it was a national security.
I don't necessarily trust him because he could be full of it. Then.
Well, that's my whole point. Is he's the one bringing this up as a Cassandra's curse, and he's pointing to these other events such as 9/11, such as the Wall Street crash of 2008, saying, well, why did nobody listen to these lone voices in the wilderness? It's because they already knew that it was going to happen. The people in power knew it was going to happen and were invested in that outcome. So that's why they didn't listen to do anything to stop it, because they needed those things to happen for the next phase in their plan to occur. And I think that is something very similar to what's going on here. I don't have all the answers. This is not meant to be a documentary. This is meant to be food for thought. This is meant to engage you all in discussion. So email us to ironmountainhour@gmail.com. Comment on the video. What do you think about it? If you made it all the way through us, let us know what you think about our whole program here. I appreciate you joining us. Tim, Dustin, you guys got anything you want to say before we close it out? It's 20 minutes till 12, so we got through it quicker than I thought we would with all the shit we looked at. So what do you guys think?
Cue the Iron Maiden cover, 20 minutes to midnight.
Oh! Anything else, Tim?
Not that I can think of. Yeah.
Not that you can think of. All right, well, I'm going to take you out with a piece of Honky Tonk Wasteland here. So let's pull that up real quick. And we'll find Honky Tonk Wasteland again. Or at least this is the interlude in the middle of it. And we will see you on Wednesday for our news and current events roundup. I'm sure there'll be something that me and Tim will like to get into, and I am going to. Sean, the pies are done.
Oh my
man! Bring one of those suckers with you to Fentress County. We'll get together and
molded by then.
Yeah, that might be so. But Sean, when you get down to Fentress County, maybe I'll make you a pie, Sean. I'm pretty handy with the apple pie myself. So, hey, we'll see you next week, or see you on Wednesday when we do news and current events roundup. I'm just gonna play this little song here and we'll see you next time.
Bye.